think she is the only aircraft carrier ever built that actually had a sonar. So I didn't know that. I was walking through the dry dock with the CO and the Admiral, and you know, here I am, this curious lieutenant, and I said, "What's that?" And they looked at me and they smiled and they said, "That's where the sonar was." So very interesting.
I didn't know that either. I was a snipe.
Okay. So BT and MM?
No, DC.
Oh, DC. Okay. Well, hopefully you guys saw my picture that I sent you, the good ship on Hummer Shard. George, have you been able to send that out to everyone? George, you online?
Yeah, I'm online. Yes, sir. Well, I gave it to Mr. Clark and Mr. Conway. We're going to post it up once you start speaking, so we can pick it up.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, there's no good reason to see me. I don't get any better looking with time. I'm not like wine. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Mr. Clark, are you ready to go?
We're ready to go.
I would recommend we put everybody on mute if you're not already on there, so we can actually.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask everybody if you could just put yourself on mute, except for Rob and myself and the Admiral.
We'll start the recording.
I started the recording.
Excellent.
All right, and I'm looking to see, is the Admiral on?
I am. I'm here.
Yes,
Can you see me?
Yes, he is.
Oh, there I can see. Oh, all right. I'm sorry. All right. I'm sorry, Admiral. Here, I got you. So if we're ready to go, hey, I'd like to welcome everyone and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Tom Clark, and I'm the president of the U.S. Navy League Pittsburgh Council. As we continue to navigate through this far-reaching impact of COVID-19, the Pittsburgh Council has been looking for opportunities to keep our members, our friends, and the active duty commands we serve connected. Today's webinar is one of those opportunities. Before I introduce our guest, who you've already talked to, I would like to thank the Navy Office of Community Outreach, NAVCO, for their help to facilitate today's event. The NAVCO Executive Outreach Department manages the Navy's Executive Engagement Visit Program. Under normal circumstances, NAVCO's Executive Engagement Visit Program would consist of a 2 or 3 day in-person visit by a flag officer or member of the Navy's senior executive service. Their itinerary would include outreach engagements with corporate executives, government officials, education leaders, local media, veterans organizations, and various civic groups of the host city. While COVID-19 has halted much of the Navy's in-person community outreach, today's technology allows us to maintain at least some of this personal interaction with our Navy. Now for a little housekeeping. Today's webinar will be conducted in an interview format with Rob Conway, Pittsburgh Council's Vice President of Outreach, and myself leading the webinar to ask questions we received from all of you prior to today's event. Now, without further ado, I have the honor to introduce Rear Admiral James Aiken. A native of Pittsburgh, Admiral Aiken was commissioned through the NROTC at Penn State University with a degree in political science. He's also earned a master's degree in strategic studies from the Naval War College in Newport, Rhode Island. As a surface warfare officer, he commanded the USS Chung-Hun and Destroyer Squadron 60, Task Force 65. His assignments at sea included service aboard the USS Monongahela, USS Virginia, Commander Carrier Group 2, John F. Kennedy Battle Group, USS Decatur, USS Normandy, and USS Hopper. Ashore, he served as detailer at the Navy Surface Warfare Manpower Headquarters, Deputy Executive Assistant, Administrative Aide to the Secretary of the Navy, Liaison to the U.S. Senate for Secretary of Defense, and Naval Aide and Executive Assistant to the Assistant Secretary of the Navy, Financial Management and Controller. As Flag Officer, he served as Deputy Director Resources and Acquisition, Joint Staff in Washington, D.C. He currently serves as Commander Carrier Strike Group 3 in Bremerton, Washington. Admiral Aiken, thank you for joining us today. The audience is yours.
Hey, thank you very much, sir. Tom, I really appreciate the opportunity. Rob, I really appreciate the opportunity. And George, thanks for putting this together. What a tremendous opportunity. A little bit of what's not in the bio there. is I still have pretty strong ties to Pittsburgh. I think I mentioned to Rob when we talked last week that my brother is the superintendent at Shaler. My other brother is the headmaster at Eden. I have another brother who's the head outside sales rep for a building and supply company. And then my mother just recently remarried. My father's passed away, but she recently married Peter McElhenney, and Peter is the former president of Kennywood. So lots of ties still to Pittsburgh, and what a wonderful place. Of course, anytime I meet someone from Pittsburgh, no one's really from Pittsburgh. So, along those same lines as I'm not really from Pittsburgh either. I grew up on the east side. I grew up in Oakmont, which is a little small golfing town. And I think now it's considered a bakery town because of the bakery. So I share that as a little bit of background. I certainly look forward to every opportunity to get back to Pittsburgh, although I'm not complaining about living in Washington State either, because the low last night was about 55, which is nice, comfortable sleeping weather, and I didn't have to pay for any air conditioning. So that's a good deal. George, I think, forwarded you guys a slide, and it's a picture of the Bonhomme Richard. Does everyone, can we just make sure that everyone has a copy of that picture and they can see that picture? Because my brief remarks today, I'm going to talk about 10 things that I see that maybe not everyone sees in this picture.
Oh, you got to bear with me. I had it up here a second ago, Adron. So I'm sorry. Oh. There it is. I believe that's what you're looking for, Admiral.
It's a picture of oh yeah, that's exactly the case, and it says resilience on the top. That's perfect. I would assume that most of you have seen some pictures of Bonhomme Richard. This was one of the pictures that I just had a friend actually send me, and it's a pretty amazing picture. And the more that I found out about the picture, the more that I really like the picture. And as a matter of fact, I am working on hanging up this picture. And I turn around because the aide here is actually working on getting that for me to put in my office. And you probably are thinking, like, why in the world would you put a picture up of a ship that's on fire? And that is a great question. So let me tell you about 10 things that I see in this picture that maybe don't necessarily catch everyone's eye. And I would assume, since most of you guys are Navy League or you're advocates, maybe the first thing doesn't necessarily is not hard to see. But there, front and center, in the middle of the picture are sailors. And, you know, I think folks who haven't served in the Navy or around the Navy sort of wonder what a sailor is. Who is a sailor? And you know what? I'm reminded of a story, and I want to share this with you. This is when I was I guess I was an ensign. The first guy ever re-enlisted in the Navy was a guy by the name of BM.SN King, Brian King. And I don't know why I remember this kid so much, but he was an amazing young man. And I remember before I re-enlisted him, I sat down and I talked to him and I said, hey, bosun mate, tell me a little bit about yourself. And he said, tell me why you joined the Navy, whatever the case is. And so I said, so he said to me, well, sir, I joined the Navy to see the ocean. And I said, boats, what do you mean by that? You mean to see the world, right? And he said, no, to see the ocean. And I said, I don't understand what you mean. And he said, sir, I'm an inner city kid from inner city Detroit. He said, there's absolutely no chance that I would have ever seen the ocean in my life if I hadn't joined the Navy. And I thought, wow. And really never really thought about something like that, because growing up in Western Pennsylvania, I really had a lot of opportunities. And that always sort of stuck with me. And I'll tell you why that sort of stuck with me. So about 9 years later, BM.SN King was now BM1 King. And he called me up and he said, Mr. A, that's what he called me, Mr. A, this is BM1 King. And I said, hey, Boats, how are you? And, checked in with him, see how he was doing, all that. And he said, I want to tell you some exciting news. And I said, what's your exciting news? And he said, sir, I just want to let you know that I got picked up for an officer program. And so now BM1 King is now Lieutenant Commander King. What an amazing story, and what a, you know, and the opportunity that we have in the United States military and the United States Navy in particular. So that's the first thing that I see with this picture. And by no means are these my 10 points in any sort of an order. The second thing that I see in this picture, and as you notice, there's two fire teams, and they're getting ready to go in and to fight this fire. And I just want to highlight the fact that teams win. If you notice they're going in as teams. They're not going in as individuals. And I'm reminded that the biggest accomplishments, the most amazing things that we look back on our life are not necessarily the things that we do individually, but the things that we do as part of a larger group, part of something that's larger than ourselves. I remember a number of years ago when I was a basketball player, I was a basketball player and a big basketball fan. I remember Karl Malone going to the Lakers, and they asked him why he was doing it, and he was taking a lot less money than he would have made for the Utah Jazz. And he said, you know, I just want to do something. I want to win. And as I look at this picture and I see those 14 sailors getting ready to go in, I'm reminded that teams win. I'm reminded of a story when I was a young XO on USS Hopper, and we had just done this big engineering assessment. You know, Tom, you guys are actually my Kennedy plank holder friend there. You know, you'll remember these engineering tests, and they really evaluate you. They sort of stick it to you. And we had just scored the highest score in the Pacific Fleet. And I remember this young man, GMSN Arginella, came up to me and he said, "Sir, I bet you're really proud of us." And I said, "Hey, Petty Officer Arginella, or actually Seaman Arginella, or Fireman Arginella, I am really proud of you." And he said, "But not for reasons that you probably know." And I said, "You know, you guys did something here amazing, and you did something bigger than just one person. You guys came together as a team." I said, "And it's really amazing what you can accomplish when you don't care who gets the credit and you work together as a team." So I had a little bit of Reagan's quote in there too, and I just wanted to highlight that. The third thing that I want to highlight is if you look at that picture, you know, that fire is in front of them. And that fire team, those two fire teams, they're what I call running to the roar. Some of you guys may have seen this. There's been a number of articles written about this. A lot of leadership folks have talked about this, about the fact that, you know, we have to face our fears. We have to face our fears head on. And that's exactly what these young men and these young women were doing. Is they were running to the roar. They knew what needed to get done. They put themselves behind, and they went after it. You know, the rest of the story about running to the roar is if you understand the African safari, you know, the lion or the tiger will roar on one end of the safari, and what they try to do is to get people to run away from the roar. And when you run away from the roar, the lions are on the other side. And that's part of the way that they capture animals is because as they run away, that's when they're captured. And success is when you run at the roar. There's lots more opportunities there than when you run away. The fourth thing, and this is very closely related, is the person that I got this picture from was a former damage controlman master chief. And he said, if you look at that picture closely, I want to tell you something that most people will never see. He said, none of those 14 people in the picture were assigned to USS Bonhomme Richard. You know, that's one of the things that's absolutely amazing in this whole situation is the number of people who contributed to putting the fire out on the ship. Certainly it was a bad day, but this is an absolutely amazing story when you see the number of people who contributed, you know, and you don't necessarily see that all the time and across the board. Lots of people are, hey, not my ship, not my problem. One of the things that I want to highlight here is that these folks said, you know what, we're all shipmates. We're gonna get after it. The other thing that I want to highlight, and my fifth point is that there's no such thing as turning back. The same Master Chief friend of mine mentioned the fact that, you know, he was down there for 5 straight days while they were putting out the fire. And he said, and they would send in team after team after team. And the temperatures were so high that at some point they were only able to stay in and fight the fire for about 4 minutes because of the stay times. That's pretty amazing. And there's folks who went in 7 and 8 times to fight the fire. And he said, and he didn't see one person, not one person, who raised their hand and said, you know what, I just can't go back in again, you know, and there was no one who bowed out, no one who actually said, no, not mine, my job, and wanted to do something lesser. So pretty amazing. The sixth point that I want to make, and really, as I go through all these points, just remember, these aren't specifically to the Navy, but these are points of everyday life points, is bad things happen to good ships. You know, this was a bad day. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, the ship was caught on fire, billions of dollars lost. I mean, the good news is no one lost their life, but bad things happen to good ships. And you know what? The challenge that we have before us is when bad things happen, you know, we can sort of sulk, we can point fingers, but at the end of the day, the best organizations realize bad things happen and they make the organization better each and every day. Number 7, and certainly a broad application here. But if you look at these folks and as they're marching forward to go fight a fire, we have to be reminded that character and culture counts. And by character and culture counts, I want to highlight one thing, is that there's no such thing as a quick solution to achieving better character or better culture. It's something that changes step by step by step by step, almost like the same way we count: 1, 2, 3, and 4. So character counts. Remember, there's no such thing as quick fixes. As I talk about character and culture, you know, I'm reminded as a young boy, I was a huge Steeler fan, and I'm still a huge Steeler fan. And one of the cool things is I got to go to an Athletes in Action football camp that was hosted by John Kolb, Mike Webster, Donnie Shell, John Stallworth. And one of the people who was there was a guy that at the time not many people knew about. It was a defensive back and a quarterback who played at Minnesota. And the guy's name was Tony Dungy. And the reason why I bring up Tony Dungy is he really was an impressive guy. I mean, it was amazing that here we are at this football camp, and it was amazing to me to see the number of questions that he was asking, you know, people like Donnie Shell, you know, about things. And even then, even here he is at a professional level, and he's still asking questions and still wants to learn. The reason why I bring up Tony Dungy is Tony Dungy did an amazing job when he went to Tampa Bay in 1996 at changing the culture. Most people don't realize this, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I'm sorry about the slip there. He won the Super Bowl with the Colts. But when he went to the Bucs, they had 13 straight losing seasons. And 12 of those 13 years, they had lost more than double-digit. They had double-digit losses, which means that they lost at least 10 games in 12 of those seasons. So he really had to work hard in changing that culture. And it's amazing what he did in the 6 years that he was there. Now, he wasn't there to see the team get over the finish line. As most of you know, the next year John Gruden came in, and the Bucs ended up winning the Super Bowl. But Tony Dungy did get his opportunity. It's a significant thing to change culture. It takes time. It takes effort, and it's not something that you can do overnight. And remember, you know, we're talking about 1 million people in the Navy. Tony Dungy, the culture that he changed was the 53 people on the Bucs, as well as some coaches and stuff like that. So a larger challenge. A number of people have asked me in the last couple of weeks about the name Bonhomme Richard. Most people don't know this, but the Bonhomme Richard is actually named after. Does anyone know? Tom, Rob, I'll let you guys jump in first.
Benjamin Franklin.
Benjamin Franklin. And why the name Bonhomme Richard? Well, as you probably remember, Ben Franklin wrote Poor Richard's Almanac. So Ben Franklin was referred to as Richard. So they named the ship after Ben Franklin as an honor and a tribute to who he was. So thus Bonhomme, good man Richard, for Ben Franklin. Now, the reason why I talk about that is I talk about the legacy of the U.S. Navy, the legacy of Ben Franklin. You know, and I just want to pause there. You know, a lot of people talk about leaving a legacy. I think one of the things, you know, my father really emphasized this, and I think I mentioned previously when I talked to you that my father was a pastor. He said, we don't leave a legacy, right? We pay forward a legacy. If you look at the base word for legacy, the word legacy comes from the word legate, similar to the word Lego. And the fact of the matter is that we don't leave a legacy, we build a legacy. And you look at what the Navy has done in the past, you look at what Ben Franklin, the ship's namesake, has done in his contributions to the United States. They actually built a legacy, and we have to continue to build it. We have to continue to grow from that. You know, even just the last couple of days, we celebrated the 75th anniversary of the sinking of the Indianapolis, which was just a devastating day. And, you know, we have to think about what our past was and how we have to move on from our past in good ways and bad ways. The ninth thing that I will tell you that as I look at that picture and what it says and what it signals to me is in every situation we have to learn, we have to evaluate, we have to assess. You know, this whole thing is a really, really sad situation, like I already mentioned. We've taken some time with the ships in the strike group just to talk about, hey, what can we learn from this? Hey, what things can we be doing better? How can we sort of gird up our loins and make sure that the same thing doesn't happen to us? And then the last point, and certainly a nice tie to Pittsburgh is I think we're all challenged when we look at this picture to be a pro. And as the guys on the staff will tell you, I'm a big Franklin Covey fan. And, you know, his number one, you know, habit of highly successful people is about being proactive and not reactive. And as I mentioned to a number of folks before, you know, success is being a pro and not being a re. And I'm reminded of Wayne Gretzky. Let me pause there. I'm not necessarily putting Wayne Gretzky in a category above, say, Super Mario or Sid the Kid, but certainly an elite player. The guys here in the background are laughing at me, but certainly an elite player. And you know, one of the things that they said to Gretzky is why do they consider you the great one? Why is that? And he said, and this was a great quote. He said, you know, one of the things I've learned is that I try not to skate to where the puck is. I try to skate to where the puck's going to be. And I think as we look at that picture, we're reminded is, okay, you know, we're not necessarily going to where the fire is. We're going to where the fire is going to be, and we're going to make sure it doesn't spread. We're not going to go to where the fire is. We're going to secure it from the adjacent areas. So with that, I wanted to sort of close and just talk about the fact, and I put resilience on here, is you know, the Navy will have bad days. And you know what? It's like the line, and I kidded with the guys from the office about this. I said it's like the line from Rocky VI, where Stallone says it's not about how hard you get hit, but how hard, or when you get hit, how you're able to get back up again. And then Stallone says that's what winning's about. So I know I butchered that quote a little bit, but I think you get the gist of it. So it's not about how hard you get hit, but it's how hard you get hit and keep getting back up. So with that, I want to open it up to some questions. I look forward to the opportunity to interact with you, and really thank you for the opportunity to share a few thoughts with you today.
Thank you, Admiral. Is it okay to take this off the screen?
Yeah, you're more than welcome to.
Okay. With that, I guess we can start the Q&A session portion of the discussion, and that's going to be Rob and myself. And I'm going to pull some rank and say I'm going to go first, if you don't mind, Rob.
Hey, that's good, Tom.
No problem.
Hey, Admiral,
Tom, let me ask you a quick question. Are you a former Navy person?
Am I a former Pittsburgh? Well, when I got out of the Navy the first time, all right, I moved to Pittsburgh, and I've raised my family. I've been here since '72, and other than being recalled for Desert Storm, Desert Shield, all right, which turns your life upside down, you know, this has been my home. So I grew up in the eastern part of the state. I grew up in the Lehigh Valley.
Okay.
And but I'm a Pennsylvanian, but you know, I've been here in Pittsburgh long enough. I can consider it a native. And the question that I'd like to ask you is that you know, the debate over the number and size of aircraft carriers, started when the Langley, launched and recovered its first aircraft. And it's been ongoing ever since. And every once in a while, something happens and it starts the debate, a little bit in earnest. And I guess recently with the Gerald R. Ford suffering all its problems with his elevators and its catapults and its, whatever. I got some people coming in. I got to get them in. That's sort of started the debate. And I'd like you to, maybe view it in about three different areas. The Chinese and the Russians, right, have significantly enhanced their air and space-based surveillance, and and that sort of increased the standoff distance that the carriers need, when they go in. All right, and so that's got to impact the makeup of the aircraft, that the carriers have. And then budget pressures, which are only going to get worse after this COVID, are going to put the squeeze on the Navy and the types of ships. And that's brought up the debate of smaller and more numerous of the aircraft carriers. And then, of course, we've got the unmanned, submarines, and they've got the unmanned surface ships. And that's going to have an impact. Can you just give me your feel for where you think our order of battle is going with respect to aircraft carriers?
I'm going to switch over to this to try to hear a little bit better because we have some work going on the outside of the building. So hopefully, Tom, can you just give me a thumbs up? You can hear me okay?
Thumbs up, yep. We can
Okay.
hear you fine.
So, it's funny that you'd ask me this right now because last week I got, I think I'm part of a 15-person team that got summoned by the Secretary of Defense, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and then, of course, the Navy staff to go back and be part of a tabletop exercise to evaluate the future force structure. So I've had a lot of conversations in the last week about aircraft carriers. First of all, I will admit they are very, very expensive. Ford costs way, way too much money. I think senior leadership in the Navy will say that. And of course, that's one of the reasons why they're block buying. And, the next Kennedy is not going to cost $17 billion like Gerald R. Ford, or we all should get in trouble. So that'd be the first point is yeah, I do see some constrained budgets, and we're going to have to make some priority decisions on what we're going to do and what the right number of aircraft carriers are. One of the points that was made last week is, and I didn't realize this, is that the aircraft carrier gives us more flexibility than any other ship in the Navy. And the reason for that is because we can change what flies on and flies off. As we move more to unmanned, it gives us more opportunity to pursue unmanned. I didn't realize this, but the Enterprise had 57 different aircraft that flew on and off the aircraft carrier. That's pretty amazing. You think of the depth and the plethora of aircraft that we're able to fly on and off. And as technology changes, it gives us the most amount of flexibility. And me being a destroyer cruiser guy, you just can't change the configuration of a ship with the speed that you can in an aircraft carrier because of the just changing planes. So there is a lot of goodness there. In terms of the Chinese and the Russians, you're exactly right. I think that the capabilities that they have to find and fix and target and destroy aircraft carriers is great. We have to stay ahead of that. We have to come up with ways to defeat their systems, decoys, anti-satellite type options, left of launch type options before they were able to launch missiles at us. They certainly have identified the aircraft carrier as certainly the center of gravity for the Navy, we have to consider that and consider how we make that a harder target for them to go after.
Thank you. Rob?
Okay, a question, Admiral, kind of shifting gears a little bit, the implications of COVID-19, specifically lessons we've learned from it, and how do we prevent COVID-19 from undermining our operational readiness?
So, the CNO just sent all the flag officers a note just last week and basically said, this situation, the environment we're in doesn't give us a pass on mission readiness. So I think, one of the conversations that I've had with the strike group is that we cannot be the person who hides in the cave, worried about the fact that COVID is outside and being fearful that it's a bear when it ends up being a squirrel. And quite honestly, I think at this point, we don't know if it's a bear or it's a squirrel, but we have to figure out, we still have a job to do. And there's things that we actually have to do in person. Perfect example is the aircraft carrier went out, the Abraham Lincoln went out just this about the last 10 days and had to do carrier calls for new pilots, for the air wing, and then also as training opportunities. And, they had to do some creative things. They left an entire group of folks behind in case something was to happen and they had an outbreak, that they would have a crew that would be able to come on board and take control, take over the ship. They also put folks, they started serving meals 23 hours a day so that people don't interact as much as possible. They've done face coverings. We've emphasized hand washing. So I think that, I'm not trying to lessen the impact of COVID. It's certainly something that I worry and I think about a good bit. But I also have to realize that we still have a mission to do, and we have to figure out, how to take care of the sailor and to balance that with mission accomplishment. And that's sort of the situation that I have to face and that we face in the United States Navy on a regular basis. So I think it's one of those things where we have to be creative. We have to be proactive. We have to get out in front of things, and we just can't wait and just sort of hope that no one gets it, because the fact of the matter is that people are going to contact the disease, the virus. We have to be wise and doing the right things. One of our big conversations is just being responsible. There's probably not a good, we all saw the party in the Ozarks. We all saw some of the parties going on in Arizona. That's probably not being wise and being responsible if we show up and we do stuff like that. And it goes back to the picture of Bonhomme Richard is we play a role. We're part of a team. And if you're only thinking about yourself, then guess what? You very easily, could infect the other 13 people on that team. So that's just a couple of the thoughts that I have, Rob.
Thank you, Admiral. Tom, did you want to ask a question, or should I ask another one?
Go ahead.
Okay, and you talked a little bit about this. Again, it goes back to China's capabilities in Russia, but mainly the Chinese, they're building a modern submarine force. They're equipping it with longer range anti-surface weapons, including very long range cruise missiles. They're talking about hypersonics being launched from there. They're even talking about directed energy from some of these newer submarines. But the one other thing they're doing is they're training them, and they're getting experience in deep water ocean operations, something they haven't done before. So does this indicate that a change in the ASW capabilities of the U.S. Navy going forward?
I think it certainly challenges the equation. I know last week when we were in Washington, D.C., we had lots of talk about what the future of the submarines is going to be. But the submarines will also be the first ones to tell you that submarines are the best option to kill another submarine, but they're not necessarily the best option for us to find submarines. So there's an investment we have to make in submarines. And then there's also an investment that we have to make in platforms such as the P-8s, the Helos, the surface ships, in order to be able to go out and to find the submarines. But you're exactly right, is that China is certainly realizes that this is a force multiplier area, and they're going after this because I think that they feel like they're behind in this area, and they think that this is an area that they can catch up and even propel past us.
Okay, I'm going to shift direction a little bit. Is that I've read several articles about the amphibious landings in Afghanistan being 150 miles from shore, and the close interaction between the Marine Corps and the platforms, the Navy platforms that they use to bring all of the forces to bear. You know, and it calls to mind that the new Commandant of the Marine Corps' planning guidance calls for, you know, a strategic shift back to naval basics, the naval roots for the Marines. What impacts do you see for a more integrated Navy Marine Corps team is going to have on the Navy going forward?
I'll tell you what, I'm sorry, Tom, I'm really excited about it. When we were at the Future Force study last week, we had 3 Marines as part of the study. And so they were part of it. The Commandant's ideas are accepted by lots of folks. They think this is a great opportunity. It also helps in the great power competition. They have this EABO concept and an expeditionary basing option that they have, which really confounds the Chinese problem, you know, and really gives us an asymmetrical advantage, specifically using the islands in the Pacific.
Yep.
And then they also are pursuing these laws, which is a light amphibious warship, or you know, small amphibious warship, and it allows them to have some agility, to move around quickly, to move around in some shallow water. So I'm really excited. As a matter of fact, I'm good friends with the 2-star general who's in charge of amphibious ships, and I just saw him last week, and I just said, you know, he and I went to the War College together, and I said, Tracy, this is a game changer. You know, Commandant Berger he's Wayne Gretzky right now. I think he's out, and he's skating where the puck's going to be, and he's going to make the calculus for great power competition a lot harder for you know, people like China, people like Russia, because of you know, he's changing what we've always done in the past. Now that's not to say, I mean, let me be the first to tell you that you know, the Marines are quick to bring up Guadalcanal, you know, and the fact that we dropped them off there, and you know, and you know, we were happy to let them die on the island, and I remind them that the only reason why they're the fighting force they are today is because we did that. So that was a little bit of a joke.
I have another question. It goes to what do you think the major differences are between operating a carrier strike group in 3rd Fleet as opposed to where you've operated in the past in 2nd Fleet and 6th Fleet?
So I've been fortunate that, you know, I've operated some in 7th Fleet, a lot in 5th Fleet, and then I was Commodore in 6th Fleet. So and then of course, you know, we do a lot of training. You know, the 2nd Fleet and 3rd Fleet, for the most part, until the resurging Russia, especially with 2nd Fleet, have really been training opportunities. So, you know, you see that as force generation, opportunity to train and to get ready to go in the 2nd and 3rd Fleets. I'll tell you what, it's, you know, when I was a young guy, I remember the interactions with Russia and the competition, especially early in my time in the Navy. And you can see that, I mean, especially when I was Commodore, sending ships into the Baltic and the Black Sea, you can see that there is certainly a competitiveness there that wasn't there in say like the 90s or even the thousands or the 2000s. That it's back, and there's a, you know, it's one of those things. I have operated in the 7th Fleet, and you know, as I've mentioned already, is the proficiency of our competitors is getting better and better, and their equipment's getting better and better. So there's no rest for the weary. We can't rest on our laurels as being the greatest Navy, greatest Marine Corps, you know, greatest military in the world. We have to make wise investments with each and every dollar that Congress allocates, appropriates. We have to be wise in how we maintain ships, aircraft, submarines. We have to be wise in how we manage personnel. So there's a lot of challenges there. And I think, you know, the difference between the fleets is I really feel like we're in competition specifically with Russia and China, probably in the 6th and the 7th Fleet, and less so in 5th Fleet, where we see competition. You know, there's still some challenges with the Iranian interaction, but not necessarily at the same level as what we see with China and Russia.
Okay, thank you. I had another question here. It's someone's asked has the F-35C been assigned to Carrier Strike Group 3? And if it has been, what kind of experience have you got with it to date?
So they'll start working up with this as we, later this fall. And the cool thing is that we actually have the F-35C Marine variant, not necessarily the vertical takeoff one, but the Marine squadron. So we'll actually have Marines as part of our air wing, and we're considered the air wing of the future. So not only will we have the F-35, but we'll have the new E-2D, and then we'll also have the MV-22. So pretty amazing where we're going and how the air wing is changing. To be honest with you, I wish we were bringing on the MQ-25. I really feel like unmanned is upon us, and I wish I could accelerate that. But as the old song goes, you can't hurry love. So I guess I'll just have to wait.
Okay. Yeah, we had a couple questions about unmanned aircraft and the impact that's going to have on the carrier op. So it's interesting.
Yeah, now I will tell you, I'm all in. I think probably some of my aviation friends are worried about job security. George, don't quote me on that one. All right. But yeah, that's a little bit of a challenge. The world's changing, and I think we can put a lot more capability on an unmanned aircraft than we can on an unmanned aircraft. So, and we don't have to worry about how many G's a human can embrace when we have unmanned. It gives us a lot more options to fly fast and to fly far. Those types of things.
I find that a little interesting. Someone who makes a living doing, night carrier landings is going to have worries about job security.
Well, yeah, that's we'll see.
That's from the perspective of a submariner.
Yeah. So.
What do you think, Robert?
Well, I have one more question. Let's see, which is a different kind of a question, more of a personal question. What is it about the Navy that made you want to stay in it and progress all the way to where you are now at flag rank? What was it about the Navy that kept you in?
Yeah, Robert, and I think you and I talked about this. You started as a submarine guy, right?
Yes.
So the flag sec that I have here, sharp guy, that's George. He's sitting right behind me, the other George. And we literally just had this conversation this morning. I have found in my time in the Navy, I'm looking for increased opportunity. I'm looking for meaningful work. I'm looking for the opportunity to make a difference. I'm looking for the stories like the BMSN King, where I can shape the future. So I think that those are probably, and it hasn't hurt that I've visited 80 some countries. That I've gotten to meet a number of presidents. Hasn't hurt that I've gotten to work for Secretary Panetta, Secretary Gates, that I worked on Capitol Hill. I mean, there's just some tremendous opportunities the Navy's given me, and I'm even sorry that I've said I as much as I did. I mean, I'm more excited about the fact that I've been part of teams. I've been part of stuff that's been bigger than myself. So that's probably the challenge that I have. I applaud. I mean, anyone who takes the time to serve our country, whether or not it's for 4 years or for 40 years, it really it's an amazing thing. And you look and you see fewer and fewer folks who serve. There's probably things that keep us at it and things that we can tolerate more. I will also tell you too, Rob, is that I didn't get married until I was 32. And 6 out of my first 7 assignments were at sea. And the only shore assignment that I had in there was 10 months at the Naval War College. Now that's easy to do when you're surrounded by your friends and you're not married. It's a little harder now when I have 5 kids. And, my wife and I got married when I was, I think, in the 6th C assignment. So we've, the kids haven't necessarily had to deal with that and as much. So there's a lot of challenges. And honestly, I don't know why I stuck with it. I guess maybe that's just part of my Western Pennsylvania upbringing is that, I just kept at it, and when things were hot, I always said, as long as the good days outnumber the bad days, and somehow maybe my counting wasn't always good, and that always was the case.
Well, that brings up a little bit of another opening. That's a great personal perspective of why. But could you give us a few groups on your perspective with respect to the overall morale in the Navy and the difficulties that the recruiters are facing today to bring new men and women into the ranks?
Okay, so I'm going to speak a couple things that are not Navy positions, but just my position. So I'm going to start with those first. I think one of the biggest problems we have right now is the culture that we live in. It's acceptable to do drugs, right? I mean, I live in Washington State. I was kidding with the guys in the office just the other day that I was driving up to visit the F-18 Growlers. And while I was driving, there's a big sign that says cannabis, this exit. I'm used to being from Western Pennsylvania where the sign says Cracker Barrel, next exit, not necessarily cannabis. I think that, and we have a policy in the Navy that we don't accept people who've done drugs to come in the Navy. I think that really eliminates a lot of folks. I think a lot of folks, when they're young nowadays, try drugs, and that disqualifies them from service. I'm not. I wouldn't be adverse to working on a policy that would allow folks who've done drugs in the past, but who have remained clean all the way up through when they sign up for the Navy and then in their time in the Navy, that they are no longer doing drugs. I just know in the world that we live in, there's people who make those young person mistakes. And if we live in a world where we say we don't want to be a zero defect Navy, I think that makes sense. So George, don't hold me to that one. And once again, that's not a Navy position. That's just my position. So I think that's one. I think the other thing that I noticed is that there's some challenges right now with being associated with the military. We've had folks even spit on here and called slanderous things just because there's an association that you're part of the establishment that has discriminated against different races. You're part of the police force, and that's certainly made it challenging. And then I think the third thing is as less and less people come into the Navy, there's less and less recruiters. And what I mean by that is I'm not talking about people who are in uniform, okay? I'm talking about people like who are on the other end of this phone call, who when there's some young man or young woman who's interested in the Navy, who can sit down and talk to them and say, hey, I was in the Navy and I loved it. I mentioned to you my brothers. I have one brother who's a superintendent in Shaler, and then one who's a superintendent in Lancaster. And I told them that they can call me anytime. If they ever have anyone who's in San Diego or Washington State or Virginia Beach who wants a tour of the ship, call me up. Especially if they're a high school person and they're interested in going into the Navy. I want them to go see the Navy, and I think that's a challenge we have as well. Is with a lot of the security because of the terrorist attack back from 2001, the Navy and the ships aren't as open. Even just this week, in addition to doing this, I'm also going to be involved with the Seattle Fleet Week. Well, the Seattle Fleet Week is virtual this year, and let me just tell you, it's not the same when you're watching a video of an aircraft carrier or destroyer. It's a lot different when you can go on and you can see it and you can say, wow. And then I think lastly is I think, I think sometimes, people are just reluctant to move out of their hometowns. That's been one of my biggest problems that I've had with Pittsburgh is I've had some friends who've been executives in shipyards, and I said, hey, listen, there's a really good welding school up in Western Pennsylvania. And I remember this was the exact line, Jim, we're not wasting our time going up there. We've gone up there, and all they want to do is work in Western Pennsylvania. They don't want to leave. They don't want to go to a shipyard down in Virginia Beach. They don't want to go to a shipyard in Newport News or Connecticut or Florida or Pascagoula, Mississippi. They want to, they're Pittsburgh folks and lots of other folks around the country like it where they live, and they want to, they were born there, they're going to grow up there, and they're going to die there.
Well, I guess.
Tom, oh, go ahead.
You got any more, Rob? I guess with your permission, Admiral, I'd like to ask anybody who is on the call, is there something that we haven't covered that you really would like to ask the Admiral?
Yeah. Byron's raising his hand.
Yeah.
Okay, Byron.
Hello, everyone, and hello, Admiral Aiken. It's really a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much. One thing that it's very, very important to me in so many ways that I think the U.S. has greatly emphasized over the years is icebreakers. And I mean, Russia has something like 42 operational icebreakers, many more on the ways. I've actually been to the Admiralty Yard in St. Petersburg, and I've seen them. They got nuclear icebreakers.
I know, yeah.
Arming them up with these box launching systems that they can put on there. The Arctic is a war domain, and obviously we do things up there with the submarine force. But I mean, in terms of drones, in terms of patrol aircraft, in terms of ice-hardened ships, I mean, we can't just leave it all to the Coast Guard, it seems to me. And as it is, the Coast Guard only has one icebreaker that really works. So can you give just a few words on that, please? I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, no, Byron, thanks for the question, and I couldn't agree with you more. I actually feel, and this has been one of the things 4 plus years ago, I was on the transition team with C.N.O. Richardson, and we had this discussion. And his take was, it's a Coast Guard mission. And let me just tell you, the Coast Guard has embraced this mission, and the Navy has actually been involved with helping to develop the polar icebreaker and been a strong advocate. I do agree with those. I think as we have to refine our Arctic strategy, and as we define our Arctic strategy, especially, like China now considers them this is what they refer to themselves as, a near Arctic country. So, and then even you see what Russia's doing in terms of the Arctic and how they want to charge people for passage through the Northern Passage. I think we have to look at our Arctic strategy, and we have to, no kidding, figure out what the way ahead is, and we have to figure out where we need to invest to make sure that we get after this. I mean, it's a balancing act, because we've talked about aircraft carriers and submarines and now polar icebreakers. I worked on Capitol Hill for a year for Congressman Forbes. I realize money doesn't grow on trees. We have a lot of tough decisions, and that's certainly one that has to be part of the equation. Certainly way above my pay grade, but I think the U.S. Navy really has to have a intricate, intertwined role in what the Arctic strategy is, and it's not. I'm not I don't hit the I believe button and pass it over to the Coast Guard, although I stand in awe what the Coast Guard's able to do with their limited resources, they really do an amazing job.
Thank you very much. Yes.
So you and I, and I've actually seen I mean, you're right. I've been to Severomorsk. I've been to Ukraine. I've been to lots of different places and seen the nuclear powered icebreakers. Yeah, we're certainly playing catch up there.
Oh, thank you, Admiral.
Thanks.
Now, it looks like we're closing in on our allotted time. And on behalf of the members of the Navy League here in Pittsburgh and our friends of the sea services that we serve, I want to thank you for your time. We deeply appreciate you being with us today. This was a great opportunity for us to hear from a fellow Pittsburgh native. Once we get on the other side of COVID, we hope you will make the trip home and visit us in person. And you can see the new bakery where they moved. It is
Yeah,
really,
my mother has said it's caused quite the traffic jam.
yeah. Well, as you know, Pittsburgh's a fun city, and we love to entertain, and so we're looking forward to to an in-person visit. So,
Yeah, and I'd love to get a pizza from Vincent's and
oh,
from Manny's. And hey, and before I hang up on you guys, I know there was a bunch of ensigns on the line today. Are there any of the ensigns? Can I just sort of truncate your close 1 second and just see if any of the ensigns have any questions? Because or the other thing is I think you guys have my email. So if anything comes up and you guys have questions or want to open up a dialogue, I think George has it, and then I think Tom, you and Rob should both have it as well too, right?
Admiral, I appreciate you.
Pass it around.
I appreciate you asking permission, but you can do anything you want on this call.
No, yeah.
How about Ensign Dennis? Ensign Dennis is he's a graduate of CMU. He was the #1 guy out of there, and he's headed to sub school in September. And do you have a question for the Admiral there, Ensign?
Thank you. So I actually graduated from Pitt, but was
Pitt,
part
I'm
of the
sorry.
program.
It was the NRTC program at CMU, right?
Yeah. I think one of the things that's always difficult being new is we don't know what to ask. There's so much information coming at us, and you don't really know where to put your focus. So looking back, what kind of advice would you have for where we should put our focus?
I love that question. I'm a big John Maxwell guy, and Maxwell says great leaders ask great questions. So I think one of the things we have to do is even though you're gonna go to the boat, you're gonna be a leader on the boat. You're gonna have enlisted folks, chiefs, petty officers, and I think the best thing we can do is we can ask questions and we can be on a listening journey. And then while we're on that listening journey, I'm a big advocate in making sure that we're documenting, we're capturing the things that we learn. Because I'm a simple guy, and I know that if I don't write things down, I'm not going to really remember them. So that's my biggest thing is to be on that listening journey. I don't know if it was my wife or someone else who reminded me that I have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And that means I'm supposed to listen twice as much as I talk. So I always try to do that. And even now, I think as I've been on this listening journey, I really try to reserve, especially when I'm one of the senior folks in the organization or in the room, I want to speak last. I want to listen, because I know as soon as I say something, people are less reluctant to say anything after me, because you'll be the ensign or the Lieutenant JG or Lieutenant, and folks will think like, well, the leadership's already spoken, so I can't say anything. So I would just say listening really has to be one of the keys. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I would embrace and probably try to do better if I had to do it all over again, if I was in your spot.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Admiral. Hey, I would be remiss if I close this down without thanking the Navy Office of Community Outreach for their help in facilitating today's webinar with the Admiral. I think George and his gang just did a fabulous job working with, with Rob and myself. And personally, George, bravo Zulu. All right, we wouldn't have done this without you. Hey, we're already in communication with George and his gang for 2 more additional, guests that we're going to try to put together a webinar like this. And if they're half as good as this one, it'll be well worth the effort, Admiral. Thank you so much for your time.
Hey, I appreciate the opportunity, and as you know, I'm humbled and blessed by my Pittsburgh upbringing. Certainly, the blue collar mentality sticks with you wherever you go, whatever you do. It's that probably close tie to the Steelers, where you it's all about, just gritting it and getting after it. So it's, I appreciate the opportunity. The one thing that we didn't talk about that I want to finish as if you give me a chance to say the last word is, we sent a couple of articles about the Navy, and the Navy's on fire, and some challenging times. I talked a little bit about that in my opening remarks. But one of the things I want to tell you is that certainly bad things happen to each and every day to any organization. Our goal is what are we going to do about it? Our goal, and I have a friend who's a professional golfer, and he said, don't focus on the hazards, focus on the fairway. And you know what? That's what I want to do. I want to focus on the fairway. I want to lead like Tony Dungy, where I want to take an organization and I want to take it to new heights. And that's what Tony Dungy did. Is he said he focused on the positive. He focused on the things that they could do better. And his success in Tampa Bay and then subsequently with the Colts was absolutely amazing. So yes, there are some challenges, but I'm not ready to burn the ships. I'm not ready to tie all the ships up to the pier. We have a mission to do. We really are the world leader in maintaining sea lines of communication. And it's a tremendous privilege to be able to do that. We really, it's a tremendous honor of the support that we get from people like all you. It's a tremendous honor from people we get from the support we get from Congress. And like I said, we want to make the most of the support you provide, and then every dollar that Congress appropriates.
Thank you, sir.
All right, and with that, these two behind me are telling me I got to get back to work, so I better get back to work, because the good book says if you don't work, you don't eat, and so I better get at it.
Thank you so much, Admiral. It was an enjoyable meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. All right, bye now.